Now, wolves are back in Belgium for the first time in more than 100 years as their numbers grow across Europe.
Maintain alpha male situations.
Everything began with signs that almost no one noticed. There were no growls echoing through the mountains and forests. There were no repeated attacks causing alarm across the region. Instead, subtle changes began to appear around farms located along the forest's edge. Livestock became more wary whenever dusk approached. Guard dogs frequently fixed their gaze on the dark hillsides. Then, on damp patches of ground still marked by the morning dew, rangers began discovering familiar tracks. They appeared with such regularity and precision that they seemed to have been drawn on an invisible map. A wolf pack had quietly re-established its territory. What makes wolves such unpredictable adversaries is not simply their speed or strength. What makes them dangerous is their ability to learn. Every hunt allows a wolf pack to gain more experience. They remember the locations of fences, the habits of livestock, and even the areas where people are commonly present. Over time, that knowledge becomes a formidable advantage. While many predators act primarily on instinct, wolves seem to possess an exceptional ability to adjust their strategies and adapt to changing conditions. To deal with them, the first task was not setting traps but gathering information. A network of infrared cameras was installed along valleys, trails, and open woodland areas where tracks frequently appeared. Week after week passed as hundreds of hours of footage were carefully analyzed. From what initially seemed like scattered pieces of information, a pattern began to emerge. The wolves were not moving randomly as many people believed. They followed familiar routes, stopped at specific locations, and even used observation points before venturing deeper into their hunting grounds. Night after night, they repeated nearly the same journey with remarkable precision. Only after the picture of their movements had gradually become clear did the experts begin selecting locations for trap deployment. Preparing the traps required an almost absolute level of attention to detail. Every trace of human presence had to be minimized. The soil was restored to its original condition after installation. Dry leaves were carefully placed back exactly where they had been. Even small branches that had been moved were repositioned with great care. In the world of wolves, a single unusual detail can be enough to trigger suspicion. And when an alpha wolf senses danger, the entire pack may disappear from the area for weeks. Time continued to pass. Night after night, the cameras kept recording gray silhouettes gliding through the darkness. They approached, then moved away again. There were moments when the wolves came within only a few meters of the trap site yet still refused to step into the carefully calculated zone. Patience became the most important element of the entire operation. No one knew exactly when an opportunity would present itself, but everyone understood that a single act of impatience could erase weeks of hard work. Then, at last, the moment arrived. In the pale white glow of an infrared camera, a large wolf emerged from the edge of the forest. It moved with the calm confidence of an animal completely familiar with the area. There were no obvious signs of caution. No prolonged hesitation. It simply continued along the route the pack had used for months. And when its front paw touched the exact spot that had been predicted in advance, the trap mechanism activated instantly. The entire event unfolded so quickly that it was almost impossible to perceive with the naked eye. The wildlife management team arrived quickly to handle the situation according to established procedures. But for them, this was not the end. Capturing a single wolf was only a small part of a much longer process. Managing wolves is not simply a matter of tools or techniques. It is a journey toward understanding how one of nature's most intelligent predators adapts to the world around it. In the vast forests, where every footprint carries its own message, success belongs to those who are patient enough to read the story that nature quietly tells.
So we're gonna get her out. We're gonna put a little bit of that. Guess that it's gonna be a female.
For some time recently, residents living near forested areas have repeatedly reported the presence of wolves around farms and livestock facilities.
A coyote
At first, they appeared only at considerable distances, but over time, they gradually moved closer to areas where domestic animals were kept. Many people directly observe wolves traveling along fences or appearing near paths leading into agricultural properties. Most sightings occurred in the early morning or around dusk. Some packs even approached livestock enclosures before quickly leaving the area. The increasing frequency of these appearances over several days raised growing concerns among local residents about their potential impact. The presence of wolves quickly created significant effects on local life.
Give me that.
Livestock owners became increasingly concerned about the safety of cattle, poultry, and other small domestic animals. Many families reinforced fences or increased inspections of their barns and enclosures each evening. In addition to the potential losses involving livestock, the frequent appearance of wolves also affected the community's sense of security. In some areas, residents reduced outdoor activities at night to avoid unwanted encounters. In response to the situation, trapping efforts began in areas frequently used by wolves. Observers spent time identifying routes where signs of wolf activity repeatedly appeared before selecting suitable trap locations. Areas near trails, forest edges, and fence lines were often given priority. The trapping system was carefully positioned to match the wolves' movement patterns.
You notice when I make the dirt around it. And that's why wax sand, if you dig your bed correctly.
It was also prepared to improve the chances of attracting them into the controlled area. Throughout the process, the surrounding environment was kept as unchanged as possible to avoid altering the natural behavior of the wolf packs.
You remember what?
The main reason wolves continued returning to the area was closely linked to their search for food. When natural food sources became less abundant or harder to access, livestock operations became attractive targets. Many wolf packs remembered locations where they had previously found food and returned out of habit. In response, residents combined trapping efforts with several other control measures. Various deterrent activities were carried out to limit the wolves' ability to approach livestock. Despite these efforts, wolves continued appearing for many consecutive days, indicating that the challenge remained significant. After the trapping system had been in place for some time, those managing the operation began reviewing all previously established trap locations. Some sites proved more effective because they were positioned directly along the wolves' regular travel routes. In contrast, locations showing little activity were adjusted or moved to more suitable areas. Bait was also changed when necessary to maintain its effectiveness. These reviews and adjustments gradually made the trapping system better suited to the actual behavior. This stage was considered important before clear control results could be achieved.
And then some gray fox urine on the of it, just a little bit. I mean, very, very little. That you can also get at Shop Carolina Coat. We're gonna put a little.
So yesterday, I don't know, I'd change the name of it, honestly.
guess
After
that it's
many
gonna be a
days of
female.
monitoring and adjustments,
Because the place
the
is to
expected
be,
result
we got another
finally
coyote to
appeared.
go get.
At one of the previously selected locations, a wolf was found caught in a trap. The control system functioned as intended when the animal entered the baited area. Observers documented the event directly during a routine inspection of the site. The successful captures demonstrated that the process of identifying travel routes and selecting deployment locations had been effective.
After she got caught last night. I want to get over here.
For the animal, when he first gets in there, he'll back and travel.
Following this event, the frequency of wolf sightings around the area began to decline compared to earlier periods. Residents continued maintaining necessary protective measures to reduce the likelihood of wolves returning, while also preserving long-term stability for the local livestock operations.
In just a few days, several farms located near the northern forests began losing livestock on a regular basis. At first, only a few sheep disappeared overnight, but soon several horses also became targets, raising concern among local farmers. Strangely, the fences remained intact, the barns showed no signs of damage, and the guard dogs reacted for only a few moments before falling silent again. Every morning, fresh tracks appeared in the damp soil leading into the forest. Infrared cameras captured little more than dark shapes moving quickly through the area before vanishing. All signs suggested that a wolf pack had adopted the region as part of its regular travel route. As losses continued to grow, farm owners realized that routine patrols were no longer enough. A wildlife control team was brought in to survey the entire area. Cameras were installed along fences, forest edges, and trails where tracks frequently appeared. After several days of monitoring, they discovered that the wolves followed fixed routes between the forest and grazing areas, showing that any effective response needed to focus on movement patterns rather than reacting after each attack. The first solution was bow hunting. Unlike firearms, bows allowed hunters to approach quietly without disturbing livestock. Hunters set up ambush positions near trails identified by the cameras, using vegetation, mud, and natural terrain for concealment while waiting patiently. The goal was simple: get within range and act before the wolves disappeared back into the forest. However, the reality proved far more difficult. Wolves possess excellent spatial memory and are extremely cautious. They often changed their travel schedules or approached from unexpected directions after detecting even minor disturbances. After many days of waiting, the team had very few opportunities for a close approach. Although bow hunting reduced noise, its effectiveness remained limited. Faced with this challenge, the team turned to cage traps. Large steel enclosures were placed in areas with heavy track activity, particularly near dry creek beds, forest edges, and entrances to grazing fields. Bait was placed inside, while the exterior was carefully camouflaged with leaves, branches, and natural soil to reduce any signs of human activity. Over the following days, the cage traps produced only limited results. A few younger, less experienced wolves entered while searching for food, but most of the pack kept a safe distance. Adult wolves often stopped to observe from afar before changing direction, showing that experienced animals could easily distinguish between a natural food source and a man-made structure placed along their usual route. The camouflage process was carried out with great care. A thin layer of soil covered the trigger mechanism, followed by dry leaves and natural ground cover to eliminate visible signs of disturbance. Even small rocks and nearby branches were carefully repositioned so the area blended perfectly with the surrounding terrain. At sunrise, the team returned to inspect the traps and found one section heavily disturbed. As they moved closer, they discovered that an adult wolf had been caught at a location where tracks had repeatedly appeared. Specialists quickly secured the situation, conducted a health assessment, and attached an identification device for monitoring. Numerous fresh tracks still surrounded the area, indicating that the entire pack had passed through during the night. This story is not only about traps or protecting livestock. It reflects a growing reality in which the distance between humans and wildlife continues to shrink. As environments change, predators adapt to survive, while rural communities search for ways to protect their livelihoods. From bow hunting to cage traps and foothold traps, each method comes with its own advantages and limitations. If you found this story interesting, leave a comment and don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life stories about wildlife and modern wildlife management.
A sudden trap tightens along a narrow trail covered in wolf tracks. Scenes like this have become increasingly common across many parts of the northern United States, where farmers and wildlife control teams are still struggling to stop repeated attacks on livestock. For many communities living near deep forests and wide open grazing land, wolves are no longer just symbols of the wild. They have become a direct threat to sheep, cattle, and horses. Every year, wolf-related losses cost ranchers millions of dollars, making predator control an unavoidable part of daily life for many local residents.
Outside, they took the
Wolves are no longer staying deep in the wilderness like they once did. They are moving closer to ranches and residential areas in search of easier food sources. In northern states like Montana, Idaho, and Alaska, livestock attacks have continued to rise, pushing many ranchers into crisis. After years of repeated losses, wildlife control teams have been forced to set trap systems along the wolves' most commonly used travel routes in order to reduce predator pressure near farming communities. Wolf trapping is heavily regulated by wildlife management agencies. Areas showing high levels of wolf activity are carefully surveyed before any traps are deployed. The goal is not to eliminate the entire population, but control packs that repeatedly move into livestock areas. In states with large wolf populations, control efforts usually take place during colder months when natural food sources become scarce and wolves are more likely to approach ranches in search of prey. To locate the best trap sites, control teams track footprints, claw marks on trees, and narrow forest trails frequently used by wolf packs. Steel cable snares and specialized foothold traps are carefully placed along tight pathways near dry creek beds, hillsides, and forest edges. Every detail has to be calculated with extreme precision. Even the slightest unfamiliar scent or unusual disturbance can cause an entire pack to change direction and disappear from the area completely.
Drill.
In addition to mechanical traps, many teams also use motion-activated cameras and sound devices that mimic injured prey to monitor wolf movement. The sounds are designed to trigger the wolves' curiosity and lure them closer to pre-selected locations. Infrared cameras record their activity over multiple days, allowing control teams to identify the most effective timing and placement for trap deployment. Wolf trapping is far more complicated than simply setting equipment and waiting. It is a battle of patience, field experience, and the ability to read signs in harsh terrain. Many wildlife control workers travel dozens of miles through forests and mountains while constantly checking trap systems to ensure everything remains safe and compliant with regulations. When dealing with intelligent and highly cautious predators like wolves, even a single mistake can ruin an entire operation. According to wildlife management agencies, trapping programs have significantly reduced livestock attacks in several high wolf density regions. However, the practice remains highly controversial. Some conservation groups believe ranchers should prioritize alternatives, such as electric fencing, livestock guardian dogs, and non-lethal deterrent systems instead of relying too heavily on traps. Meanwhile, many farmers argue that without immediate control efforts, the damage would quickly become impossible to handle. The debate between wolf conservation and predator control will likely continue for many years to come. But in places where the sound of wolves still echoes near grazing fields every night, wildlife control teams continue their work with the same goal: maintaining the fragile balance between people and nature. If you want to keep following these intense stories from the deep forests of North America, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. Areas near forests or semi-wild regions often change as natural environments shrink over time. As forest land decreases due to the expansion of residential areas and production zones, the natural food sources for wolves also decline. This forces them to travel farther in search of food. At first, wolves only appear deep in the forest or in areas with little human presence. Later, they gradually move toward forest edges and closer to residential zones. Their frequency of appearance increases over time. This indicates that their movement behavior is changing as they adapt to the new environment surrounding human settlements and nearby farms. In the next stage, wolves begin to appear at night or during dawn. They may travel alone or in small groups. While moving, they often follow fences, trails, or areas with dense vegetation. These routes help them avoid detection. In some cases, wolves approach livestock areas very closely before quickly retreating. Their appearance becomes increasingly frequent near the boundary between forests and residential areas. This significantly expands their range of activity. At the same time, the level of risk to livestock and human living areas increases based on real observed changes in the region. As the situation becomes more evident, control measures begin to be implemented. Observers track the familiar movement routes of wolves to determine suitable locations. Traps are placed along trails, near fences, at forest edges, and in open ground areas. These are places wolves commonly pass through while foraging. Bait is placed during setup to increase attraction efficiency. Surrounding areas are left unchanged to avoid alerting the animals. Observation points are also positioned discreetly to monitor the entire area without altering the natural movement behavior of wolves in a controlled zone. After the trap system is fully installed, the area is kept quiet to avoid changing wolf behavior. At night, wolves begin to return along their familiar routes. They move more slowly when approaching baited areas and pause to observe their surroundings. They then continue through both vegetation cover and open ground. Observers monitor from hidden positions to record behavior. The stable environment makes wolves less cautious. This allows them to approach closer to prearranged control zone set up in advance in the forest edge area. As they approach the identified zone, wolves begin to enter the activation range. The scent of bait causes them to pause and observe before moving forward. During this process, they follow the pre-calculated path. Once sufficient trigger conditions are met, the trap mechanism activates rapidly. The animal is restrained at the exact location. The entire event happens so quickly that the wolf cannot change direction. After the situation ends, observers confirm that the trap location matches the actual movement routes of the wolf pack. After the trapping event, wolf packs continue to appear in the area in the following nights. They move more slowly and tend to observe more carefully before approaching. Some individuals change direction upon detecting unusual signs. However, familiar routes such as forest edges and trails are still frequently used. Their movement behavior becomes more cautious, but does not disappear completely. Observers continue recording these changes to assess the impact of control measures in the real environment around forest edge and residential areas. Wolf control requires long-term observation and a clear understanding of movement behavior. When traps are placed in the correct locations, effectiveness increases. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities in the area. Over the past several years, wolves have gradually returned to many rural and mountainous regions across Russia. For biologists, this is often viewed as a sign that ecosystems are recovering. But for many ranchers and livestock owners, the growing presence of these predators has created new challenges. From large farms bordering dense forests to remote mountain communities, signs of wolf activity are becoming increasingly common. Wolves track livestock, use the terrain to their advantage, and sometimes cause significant losses for farmers. Once a pack establishes territory in an area, the pressure on livestock can persist for months, forcing rural communities to continually search for more effective ways to protect their animals. As pressure from wolf packs continues to grow, many ranch owners have been forced to invest heavily in protecting their livestock. They install surveillance cameras, reinforce fencing, use warning systems, and hire professional wildlife control teams when necessary.
Come along.
However, unlike many opportunistic predators, wolves are highly coordinated pack hunters. They memorize terrain, learn from experience, and quickly change their behavior when they sense danger. This turns wolf management into a prolonged battle strategy, where even a small mistake can undo weeks of preparation. In modern wildlife management, steel foothold traps are considered one of the most important tools in areas experiencing high levels of predation. However, deploying them is far more complex than many people assume. Control teams spend days surveying the landscape, searching for tracks, for caught on fences, scent marking locations, and the travel routes wolves use most often. Every trap is carefully positioned to take advantage of the animal's natural movement patterns rather than forcing them toward a specific location. Before any trap is set, specialists typically monitor the area using infrared cameras and motion sensors to better understand behavior of the entire pack. They record activity times, approach routes, and locations where wolves frequently stop to observe their surroundings. The most important objective is to avoid making the area appear unusual. Even the slightest sign of danger can cause an entire pack to change its route and disappear from the area for weeks. As a result, most of the operation is spent watching and waiting rather than actually setting traps. Once a suitable location has been identified, steel foothold traps are installed along natural travel corridors. These pathways often develop over many years of repeated use, following creek banks, mountain passes, and forest edges where wolves feel safest. Rather than moving randomly across the landscape, most wolf packs rely on familiar routes that have been used for generations. Understanding these invisible corridors greatly increases control effectiveness without expanding the area of intervention. However, even with increasingly advanced surveillance technology and years of field experience, managing wolves remains a difficult task. They work as a team, remember their surroundings, and adapt their behavior quickly. An area that remains quiet for several months can suddenly show fresh signs of wolf activity after a single breeding season. When one route becomes heavily monitored, new travel corridors often emerge deeper in the forest or farther away from areas with regular human activity. Ultimately, the story of wolves is about far more than steel foothold traps, surveillance equipment, or wildlife control programs. It highlights the complexity of balancing wildlife conservation with the protection of human livelihoods. Every improvement in management brings new challenges because the opponent is not a simple animal, but an intelligent predator that has adapted to its environment for thousands of years. And in the end, the question remains, are humans truly controlling the return of wolves, or are we simply learning to live alongside a part of nature that never completely disappeared?
Wolves are predators that live in deep forests, mountainous regions, and vast grasslands. They have a high ability to adapt to changing environments, especially when natural food sources become scarce. Wolves usually live in packs, but they can also separate to hunt alone when necessary. When survival conditions become difficult, they begin expanding their range far beyond their familiar habitat. In some cases, wolves may move closer to human settlements if they discover more accessible food sources in the surrounding environment. The appearance of wolves near residential areas usually occurs at night or in the early morning when human activity is limited. They move cautiously, often following natural trails, fences, or areas with vegetation cover to avoid detection. Wolves rarely cross open spaces because they can easily be spotted from a distance. They may appear alone or in small groups depending on feeding conditions. Their repeated return to the same routes shows that they have developed stable movement patterns around the area, making their presence increasingly noticeable over time. As wolves appear more frequently, residents begin noticing clear impacts on daily life and livestock farming. Livestock and poultry face a higher risk of being threatened, especially at night. Signs such as unusual noises and footprints around fences cause people to become more alert. Some households even have to change their daily routines to ensure safety. The presence of wolves not only affects property but also creates psychological pressure on communities living near forests. Therefore, monitoring and control become necessary to reduce long-term risks in the area. After identifying the activity zone, traps are deployed along routes that wolves frequently use. Locations near fences, trails, or areas with vegetation cover are prioritized because these places are more likely to show signs of wolf activity. The people carrying out the operation try to keep the surrounding environment unchanged to avoid altering the wolves' natural behavior. Bait is placed to increase attraction. At the same time, observation from a distance helps minimize human presence, preventing wolves from becoming wary and suddenly changing their travel routes within the controlled area. The main reason wolves return to this area is the decline of natural food sources in their habitat. When conditions in the forest can no longer provide enough resources, they are forced to move closer to human settlements to survive. Farms and livestock facilities become targets because they offer easily accessible food. After successfully finding food there, wolves tend to remember the location and return out of habit. This increases the frequency of their appearances, forcing residents to implement control measures to reduce risks in forest-adjacent communities. After a period of monitoring and control, a key moment occurs when observers record a wolf caught in a trap at the prepared location. The animal is held within the controlled area and can no longer move freely as before. The surrounding area shows clear signs of disturbance, reflecting the wolf's earlier approach. Observation is carried out from a safe distance to ensure no danger is created. This result demonstrates that the trap location matched the wolf's travel route and confirms the effectiveness of the entire control process in the area.
Going on 2 weeks. We find one, man. It has been a tough area. February is all over for us, but this is just absolutely slow. We got on a set post set Bobcat here earlier on our video, one of our called and remake. And with it being season, it's late season, they're just really not responding to dirt holes. Getting a little more. It's like any other set. You always want your traps a little bit lower than ground level. Just a little.
The process of controlling wolves requires time, observation, and careful site selection. When movement patterns are well understood, the effectiveness of control measures can be significantly improved. This helps reduce risks to livestock and residential communities near forests. Maintaining monitoring efforts after control measures are completed is also important to ensure long-term stability and safety in the area.
Little points on my trap right there. Down in there, like so.
Hand-foot catch, which isn't ideal.
It all began with silence. There were no howls echoing through the night. No clear signs of chaos appeared around the farms. Only unexplained gaps. A few young calves went missing. Sheep herds became unusually restless whenever night fell. And then, on the soft mud beside the fence, footprints appeared. They were not wandering aimlessly. They moved as if they had memorized every tree root, every stream gap, and every trail cutting through the forest. The wolves were returning. Unlike many other predators, wolves do not rely on sheer strength. They win through coordination. A pack can track a target for hours, memorize terrain, and change tactics in the middle of a pursuit. This is what turns controlling them into a long game of strategy, where every move must be carefully calculated. Infrared cameras were deployed along natural movement corridors. Night after night, the footage began to reveal an invisible network stretching across the mountains and forests. Wolves did not move randomly. They used fixed routes passed down through generations. These paths were like hidden highways understood only by them. Once the movement patterns were decoded, the next phase began. Instead of placing traps everywhere, wildlife control teams focused on natural choke points. These could be narrow passages between cliffs, a dry stream bed, or a gap between dense clusters of trees. The goal was not to force a wolf into a trap. The goal was to place the trap exactly where it was already going to pass. The steel foothold trap was prepared so carefully it almost disappeared into the ground. Each layer of dry leaves was meticulously repositioned. Soil was dusted to match the surrounding environment. Even human scent had to be minimized as much as possible. With a sense of smell far beyond many other animals, wolves can detect a single unusual detail that the human eye would miss. One small mistake was enough to make an entire pack change routes for weeks.
So this dog box bedding is
But the hardest part was not hiding the trap. The hardest part was understanding the mind of the wolf. Adult wolves rarely rush into anything new. They observe, they test, they sniff repeatedly before making a decision. This is why experts spend weeks monitoring behavior. Every new footprint on the ground, every camera angle, and every slight change in movement routes becomes an essential piece of a larger puzzle.
Yep.
Then, on a freezing night, the long-awaited moment finally arrived. On the monitoring screen, the silhouette of a large wolf appeared under infrared light. It moved slowly along the familiar corridor. No rush, no hesitation. Everything around it matched what it had seen for months. When the next step landed on the pre-calculated spot, the trap mechanism instantly triggered. The entire process happened in a fraction of a second. Rapid response teams quickly arrived at the scene to handle the situation according to wildlife management protocols. The system's goal was not to create a violent confrontation. Instead, everything was designed to minimize risk to humans, livestock, and the surrounding ecosystem. But the story did not end with a single capture. The remaining wolves quickly adapted. They changed routes, shifted activity times, and became more cautious. Once again, the strategic game began. Wolf control has never been just about a steel foothold trap. It is a battle of patience, observation, and understanding one of North America's most intelligent predators. In that vast forest, where every footprint tells its own story, victory does not belong to the stronger side. It belongs to the one who understands the opponent's behavior better than anyone else.
Feed the pack for several days.